Welcome to Lead with Hope, the podcast where we explore the power of hope, leadership, and resilience in today's world. I'm Brandy Kelly, and each week I will bring you stories, insights, and actionable advice from leaders, innovators, and changemakers who are using hope as their compass to navigate challenges, create positive impact, and inspire others to do the same. Whether you're a seasoned leader or just beginning your journey, this podcast is here to remind you that no matter the obstacle, hope is the fuel that can drive transformation. So let's dive in and discover how you can lead with hope. Welcome to the Lead with Hope podcast, where we explore hope-fueled leadership. I'm curious, what do you do when you're running on empty or struggling to find joy in the day-to-day grind of education? Well, right now, educators across the nation are facing burnout and disconnection. In these moments, we need more than strategies. We need heart, humor, and hope. And so I am excited to talk to my guest today, Gerrie Spellmann. She brings all three of those components. Through her podcast, Love, Sweat, and Tears, she reminds us that leadership isn't just about having it all together. It's about showing up with love, leading with grace, and being willing to laugh and cry through it all. Gerrie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Brandy. How are you today?
I'm doing well. And we were just doing this not too long ago on your show, Love, Sweat, and Tears. And so I'm excited to dive in and talk about all things hope with you today.
I love it. That's just right up my alley, I have to tell you.
That's awesome. So let's start with your story. I think this is my favorite question, Gerrie. When you think about your personal experiences, what kind of caused you to go into education and then do the work that you're doing now?
Oh gosh. Well, what caused me to go into education? I'm one of those kids when I was little that played school.
Yeah.
So I would have the neighbors lined up. My mom, bought me a grade book back in the day. They were paper. And I would literally play school. And so from the time I was, old enough to attend school until I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. And so that started my career. And then someone tapped me on the shoulder. They saw me as a teacher leader.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, all the good teachers can't leave the classroom, right? Who's going to teach the kids? And I had a phenomenal mentor, Nancy Robinson, and she literally, when I say tapped me on the shoulder, literally, we were walking in, my husband and I were walking in for a Teacher of the Year ceremony in our district at the time. And she was like, John, your wife really needs to go back to school because we need leaders and school leaders like her. And I was like, So I didn't even get into leadership until probably midway through my career. Yeah. I had been a teacher for 12-ish years. And that's when I went back to school and was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then, went through the assistant principal, academic dean, assistant principal, principalship, got promoted within the school that I taught. And I got promoted to open a new school we were overcrowded. I was the assistant principal. Yeah. So that was a little bit of a journey because not many people get that opportunity to step into a leadership principal role, opening a new building. Right.
Right.
And you talk about hope. I didn't want to fail at doing that. And so I, at that time, asked my superintendent, I was like, I can only do this if I have a mentor. And I knew who I wanted. And that, mentor went right alongside me. And it was hard work. There were some failures. You talked about tears. There were some tears. When I had to be like, what in the world did I sign up for? But I made it through the other side. And so leading and fostering, that growth in others has just been my passion. And I'm still doing it, even in the work that I'm doing now.
Yeah. Love, sweat, and tears. That's what this is all about. And you and I have something in common. When I was a kid, I played school as well. And they say that if you want to know where your passions lie, look at what you did in play when you were a child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I find a lot of truth in that for me.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the things that fuel your passion just makes every day a joy.
Well, it doesn't seem like work.
Right.
Like, I just retired from public ed,
Mhm.
a year ago after 30 years in
Congratulations.
well, thanks. But you know what? It's like a blink. That's when you know that you're doing the work that you were meant to be, because it seems like just yesterday I started as a teacher, and um that and when I talk with people and we're talking about, figuring out your passion and what you really want to do with your life, I'm like, gosh, you got to find something that it doesn't seem like work, right?
Right.
And getting up early was work for me. So I think if they had told me in college
Right.
I had to be at work at 7 a.m., I'm not sure I would have chosen teaching.
Yeah. Same. Same. I'm a bit of a night owl. I like to stay up late and sleep in, but I think it's because of working, over 2 decades in a school district. I am now just that person that needs structure and consistency and routines. We really thrive on that. And when we go into leadership, I think something that we're starting to talk about more in education is that idea of imposter syndrome. And I honestly think that we all have it to varying degrees in our roles as a leader. What are your thoughts about imposter syndrome?
Oh gosh, I still have it. What are you talking about? Like, people look at me. I just presented at a state conference last week here in Texas, the Texas Elementary Principal Supervisor Association. And I was hosting the podcast live, and the CEO of our company was there recording, doing all that part.
Yeah.
And I got done, and he was like, "Wow, Gerrie, that seems so natural." And I was like, "Really?" I mean, even then, I'm like, "Really?" I was so nervous. I didn't feel like it went well, and so I think we just never really grow up out of it, honestly.
No.
And as a principal, I was always like, "Who the heck?" Excuse my language. Who the heck picked me to run this school when I never had even been a principal before?
Right.
And it's very human nature. I mean, I think in any career, in any industry that you're in, I would think that I think that's part of human nature, thinking.
100% agree.
Yeah.
100% agree, Gerrie. I was doing a book study last night, and it was a virtual book study. And in my mind, I was going to have the intro music and have the screens and all of the sharing, and everything was so perfect in my mind. I had it all planned out. Everything was perfect. My daughter frequently tells me that I cannot multitask, and I hate to admit this, but last night I proved her right. I struggled with all of the multitasking that requires. And for a moment, I got in my head a little bit. And I think that our negative thoughts, if we don't stop that, if we don't replace those thoughts with, "Oh my gosh, I'm in over my head," to, "I'm learning, I'm growing. This is going to get easier and smoother and more natural as I do this." Because anytime we do something new, we are not going to be perfect. And we have to accept that we've got to start somewhere and just build from there.
Well, you're making me think, Brandy, about just when I coached teachers, and they would come in, and I would tell them something similar to this, but I don't heed my own advice.
Right.
I would tell them, "Hey," I would be like, "Hey, when we're uncomfortable with a situation, with learning something new, that's when the most growth is taking place, right?"
Yes.
But I do think our own self-talk and the way we listen to the voices in our head, we don't always do the same with ourselves.
We don't.
And we don't walk the wall or talk. We don't talk the talk in our head of what we walk and model most of the time for others, because we put on our game face, right? As leaders.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And it goes back to that imposter syndrome. And I was preparing for a keynote, and most researchers agree that about 70% of our thoughts are negative. And an even more alarming statistic is that about 90% of those negative thoughts are repetitive. And so all of the time, when you think about neuroscience, all of the time we are rehearsing those negative thoughts in our mind and not replacing those with something positive, we're creating neural pathways.
Wow.
And we are shaping the trajectory of our lives. And so, I think this is a really important topic as leaders are struggling right now in this space. I mean, principals, the average in Illinois, I don't know if it's the same nationally or not, but they last about 4 years in their role. And that's about how long it takes to affect change. So what's that mean for our public school system? It's alarming. And I think that we have to do a better job of fostering that hope and fostering that belief for the leaders that we entrust our schools and our districts and our students essentially to.
It's interesting that you just said that, because I just met with a principal yesterday who she felt like she may be losing her job, to say anything otherwise, just because the work that is taking place within, I don't know about in Illinois, but in the state of Texas, we have a state assessment that is a one-time, one and done with students that completely, in some districts, everything kind of is, lays on that one day, one test of students who may be struggling emotionally and having, in a socioeconomic status that their basic needs aren't being met. So showing up and showing what they know on any given day may or may not be what they really do know.
Right.
And so my heart was hurting and just listening. That's all I did was listen. Listen and really be there as a support, because the work is hard in schools. And I feel like since I was a principal, I've only been out of the principalship 1 year. But 1 year, things changed so rapidly in that arena.
Yeah. And they need good listeners. They need people like you and people like me who are willing to come alongside them and to support them and to let them know that we believe in them and that not only does their work matter, but even more importantly, they matter.
Absolutely. And that was one thing early when I became a principal that, and this was before COVID, well before that, because I feel like there's a whole nother layer after post-COVID. But I remember not giving myself enough latitude to just be in the moment.
Right.
Because the moment of work and school and running a school was so heavy that I would be in spaces physically with my family. I would physically be there. I was a chaperone for my daughter when she was a senior in high school for band. I would be up in the stands and then I would check my email on my phone. I shouldn't have done that, because then I was physically in the moment, but mentally I was off in the arena of a parent who wasn't happy or, had a comment about feedback about something. And so I can only imagine right now the amplification of that just in the world that we live in with politics and everything else going on. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And you bring up a really important point, because as you were talking about that, I feel like the last 13 years, I was a principal for 10 years and a superintendent for 3. And I have been in that mode for 13 years, rarely ever being fully present for my family. And I know better. And my values are faith, family, community, service. So my core values tell me that that's not the way I should operate. But I have gotten to the place in my life that I've decided for myself and for my family that cannot be my reality anymore. It's not sustainable. And I think that's why people, they're carrying this heavy weight and they feel like that is the expectation. And maybe it is. But if it is, maybe your environment isn't right. Maybe there's another community or another district that you can lead. And just finding that good fit between your values and allowing you to have a life, but also
Mm-hmm.
serve in a professional capacity is so incredibly important.
I completely agree. And part of it starts with just having, I mean, I'm just thinking back to the principalship, but having those systems in place,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And you
yes.
probably had to think through that even as a
Mhm.
superintendent. Because systematically, if we don't have systems in place in all those arenas,
Mhm.
it's kind of the structure, right?
Yeah,
It's the
it is.
structure of your work. And if there
Mhm.
aren't systems in place to structure it, and then you still have those other things happening and you do have them in place, then
Yeah.
I do feel like then it just may not be the right fit
Right.
of a school or a district.
Right. But you're absolutely right with the systems piece. If the systems aren't in place, we're all working 10 times harder than we should be, and we may not be getting the outcomes we want. And
Right.
whenever I reflect back as a school leader, things seemed even heavier when I didn't have the connection with the people. So just that basic human need of
Mm-hmm.
connection, compassion, community. Um, how do you, how did you, or how do you provide that connection and that sense of community in the places you serve?
Well, you first have to model it. I had to model it. And so anytime I transitioned to a new campus as a leader, I did one-on-ones with each staff member. And it was voluntary, so people
Yeah.
could sign up, and it wasn't like I'm going to dog the last person that was here or anything.
Yeah.
It's more of like, hey, what is one thing that is really going well at this school or in the
Mhm.
district? And if you could enhance one other thing, make it even better, what would that be? So I always framed
Yeah.
it in a positive way.
Mhm.
And you got to learn a lot about that person. But I also would do like little questionnaires just to get
Mhm.
a little personal information about them. And then I kept track of it. Like I had a staff roster and I would have little notes next to each person.
Mhm.
And if I had no notes by them, I knew that I hadn't connected with that person. And then when I would circle back, I wanted to make sure, like, Brandy, how is your daughter? You were
Right.
telling me that,
Mhm.
she's getting ready for college. Did y'all get packed up? But it's more of like being very, very intentional about getting to know them, but then also letting them get to know me.
Yeah.
And that took me a while, Brandy, because
Mhm.
in one of my former districts, it was I don't like to use the word toxic,
Mhm.
but it was just not it was everyone was kind of out for their own selves. And so there wasn't a level of trust when you would call on people in different areas of the
Mhm.
district.
Mhm.
And so when there's not that level of trust, you don't show who you really are very often because you feel like that could be a hindrance or
Mhm.
kind of used against you, for lack
Yeah.
of a better word.
Mhm.
And so when I transitioned into my final, I call it resting spot as an administrator, that district really honed in on the relationship part and getting to know me as a leader, but also wanting me to get to know the other people. And
Yeah.
it came from the top and modeling it. And
Mhm.
so that was hard for me to show who I really was and that vulnerability. But when
Mhm.
people get to see, like, you also have feelings,
Right.
like, that was also very hard for me. Or, my gosh, I really made an error in this part of, what we were working on. And we need to put our heads together to figure out how to move forward.
Yeah.
That builds community because it
Yeah.
shows that as a leader, we're human.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
I I completely agree with you. And Gerrie, I mean, sometimes, and maybe there's a leader out there listening right now that they're nodding and they're agreeing and they're saying, I completely agree with you, but you know what? I did that once and I got hurt.
mhm,
Somebody betrayed me, or somebody really, really just hurt me. And
mhm.
so now they're wearing a mask and they're not really showing their true selves. Not to put you on the spot, but what would you say to that leader?
I would say that also happened. I mean, I've experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say to that leader is that you've got to find your people.
Yeah.
Like, you have to find your people that you connect with to be able to build the confidence
Mm-hmm.
to be able to connect with others. I don't
Hard,
know.
isn't it? It's hard and it's hurtful, but the thing that I've learned through that, because like you, I've experienced that myself, and it's goes back to those thoughts that come into your mind when things like that happen. And frequently it's not as much about you as it is about them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not judging that person. That's simply just saying wherever that person is,
Mm-hmm.
they're not ready for that level of fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
They're dealing with something in their personal life or their professional life. It can be a whole host of reasons, but it's more
Right.
about them than it is about you. And what I would like leaders to hear today is that we have to have that belief in ourselves. We have to have that confidence and tap into
Mm-hmm.
your strengths and pull from your strengths and just be the person that you know that you are, because you're
Right.
enough. Whatever that looks like, you're enough.
Right. You're making me think too, Brandy, when people react or have a different response to us, and in one way or the other.
Yeah.
I remember always telling my teachers and staff, like, people are coming to us when they're coming and interacting with us. They're interacting with us based on their past experiences.
Yeah.
And that past experience with an individual that maybe you remind them of or something that popped up, that is why they come at us in a different way. And
Right.
so just having that understanding that we don't know their story and there could be something that they're bringing to the table that we're completely unaware of.
Yeah.
And when we can have that frame, and it took me a really long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I took a lot of things personal early on in my career. And I feel like as we grow emotionally, we come to a better, or at least in my situation, I was able to come to a better understanding where it isn't about me.
Right.
And don't take it personal when
Mm-hmm.
people don't have that positive reaction or interaction with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that took a really long time for me to get there.
Yeah, it's hard to get there, and sometimes you regress depending on things that are going on in your life. But I received the same advice. It's not about you. It's about the role. It's about, just that seat of superintendent and what people have in their mind. But something that I have learned over the years is that if we can help somebody to feel important, don't strip them of their humanity. Don't humiliate them. Don't complain or criticize.
Right.
Bring value to every conversation. And sometimes that value is just sitting back and listening. Sometimes that's all they need.
Sometimes that's all they need. And I always think of like a little angel on their shoulder, like bringing that problem or issue or whatever. And you're like, this is their whole world right now. And this is, and for whatever reason, we're supposed to be having this conversation. Yeah, because they're, as a leader and people listening, people come to us with hard things. And as in a leadership role, our network is so small. And so we carry a lot with us that we can't talk to other people about.
Right. And that's why I think so many of our leaders are struggling, because they don't have that circle of support. They don't have a coach or a mentor or a network of people that they, not to share the specific nitty gritty, details of the stories, but they need to have people to serve as sounding boards, to help to fill their cup. And I will say that we need to do a better job as leaders of setting boundaries. Turning our phones off at a certain time, and just being mindful of protecting that family time, because your families are so important.
Well, they're always going to be with us,
Yes,
a role, a position is going to come and go. And sometimes when you first step into that, you feel like that is the most important thing. But I can't even remember everyone from my very first administrative position. Do you know what I mean? Because you've met so many people exponentially over your career.
Yeah.
But you made me think of something, Brandy, that that I did as a leader and was I humbled in being able to share this with my staff is, I don't know if when you were a principal or a superintendent, when you would have staff members struggling, we would offer them the employee assistance. Well, have you considered our employee assistance program? Well, I'll tell you, 2020 was like a heavy hitter for me as a principal, not only because of COVID. We had a death in the family. My husband went through a very, very intense illness that was onset at that time. There were just multiple layers. And then I was also leading a school during a time that had no handbook.
Yeah.
And I had a PTO that was very politically charged because of multiple So as the principal, I had all of these things coming at me.
Yeah.
And I never had gone to a counselor in my whole life. You know what I mean? I tried to figure it out on my own because that's what you do as a leader. But at that point in time, I knew I needed to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And so the first time in my whole life, I went and I took advantage of the employee assistance program. And that was the absolute best thing I could have ever done for myself. And when you talked about having that person, it helped me professionally work through some things. It helped me personally work through some things.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go multiple, for a super long time. But it also helped me in one-on-one conversations with teachers and staff that would come into my office and just have the weight of the world on them. And for me to be able to share that I reached out for help.
Yeah.
And I walked through it, not knowing all of my business, but just that vulnerability of, hey, we are all human and we do have to have support because life is hard and we're just in uncharted territory times. Politically, and public ed is under assault, and across the board. And so we do feel like we're carrying the weight of the world. So that was one area that I took advantage of that I had never considered before because I always felt like I could handle it,
Yeah. And good for you. I mean, good for you that you were able to recognize that and ask for help. I will, frequently talk to people because of the grief and the loss that I've experienced in my life. You connect with those people that have walked a similar mile, right? A similar journey. And I think sometimes our stories can really help somebody because they've seen that you've overcome it. They've seen that you've survived it and that you're thriving. So that's a powerful message, Gerrie. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes. You brought that out when you said that one little connector. And I was like, but I also have, I call it a work BFF, who is also a principal that we kind of grew up together and we just connected. We would talk on the phone every morning, 6 a.m.
Oh, nice.
On the way into work. We would be on the phone just talking through our day, family, what may be on our plate, just getting that outside advice, thought on the work that we do. We weren't even in the same district at the end, but we had similar experiences. And so we could really just lean on one another.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is important. When COVID hit, I transitioned from a primary building to a middle school. And I love middle schoolers. I'm one of those weird people that just love middle school kids. But it was heavy and I didn't have that person. So I reached out to the Teach Better Network and they do masterminds every week, virtual masterminds. And it was a huge help to me just to have a group of people that were principals or in some sort of an administrative role in varying districts and varying states, very diverse actually. But it was just so helpful to be able to talk about problems of practice or stressors or whatever was on the agenda for the day. And having that support helped me get through some of those tough times during COVID. But shifting it to a more hopeful topic right now, Gerrie, what are you super hopeful about? Is there something that's bringing a lot of passion to your life or excitement?
There is. I'll
Yeah.
tell you what I am super hopeful about is that the work that I'm doing now with responsive learning and just being that lifeline and support for principals and assistant principals. Because when you talked about having that connection with people, you don't have to be in the same space. But one cool thing about COVID is that it allowed us to know that we can hop on a virtual meeting and be with people that we didn't really utilize that prior to COVID, right? So that was something positive that came out of it and spreading that hope. And so it's hopeful to me to be able to be a connector for people that may feel isolated in smaller districts, smaller areas around our state, that there is hope and support in a job and a role that is very isolating and lonely. So it's isolating and lonely if you only have one school, like one elementary, one middle, one high school. And so being that connector where they can have that collaborative support, that fills my bucket to be able to do that, because it's at a broader scale of the work. Because I feel like public schools or private, our democracy depends on an educated populace. And part of that is having good leaders. It all starts with leadership, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the work that you're doing. I think it's so incredibly important to pour into our leaders. Because as I said at the top of the show, it's hard work, and there's a lot of them that are feeling stressed and overwhelmed and burned out, but there is hope. There is a sense of hope. There is a system of hope, and there are wonderful people like you, Gerrie, that are willing to provide the expertise and the excitement and the passion that you have for education and pour into those folks. And so thank you for the work that you're doing.
Well, Brandy, thank you for the work that you're doing. I am grateful that our paths crossed and we had a connector of another Marty Silverman and the work that he's doing. And so all the way down here in San Antonio, Texas, and you're in Illinois, like we would have never met if it hadn't have been for an educator leader that was that connector for us. And so
I love connectors. I love that. And fun fact, I just posted on my YouTube channel a little inspirational video. And the landscape is the Riverwalk in San Antonio. It is very beautiful.
I love it. Yeah, it's a little hot here. I mean, it's definitely a little toasty. It's probably about 94, but the humidity this morning, I did my morning walk and it was just like you sweat like nothing. And it was 80 degrees.
We are dealing with rain here in Illinois. So at this point, I would take the 90-degree temps, but over time that gets old.
You just get used to it. You just go from air conditioning to air conditioning.
There you go.
Kind of like in the winter for y'all, you'll go from like indoor heat to another place that's heated, right? So same thing.
So Gerrie, if the listeners, anybody wanted to get a hold of you and learn more about your work or more about your podcast, how would they get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to our responsive learning website. Responsivelearning.com is one way they can find out about it, or they're welcome to email me. I'm also on X at Gerrie. So people are, I'm only like an email away. You can find me. And it's Gerrie at responsivelearning.com if they want to email and reach out for anything.
Awesome. Gerrie, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I can't wait to share this episode with the Lead with Hope community. So thank you for leading with courage and compassion and a whole lot of heart.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This has been fun. See, it's another piece of being fun. We love what we do. So it didn't even seem like a half hour's passed by, right?
Right. It went like that.
It did. It did.
All right.
So,
thank you so much.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in to Lead with Hope, where we share stories and strategies to help you rise, lead, and redefine what's possible. If today's episode inspired you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more leaders like you who are ready to lead with heart, purpose, and resilience. Don't forget to visit sparkhopeedu.com for resources, upcoming events, and tools to help you build a culture of hope in your life and leadership. We're so grateful to be part of your journey. Until next time, keep leading with hope.